Yeah, kiss that mic like a rock star, man. Just put your lips on it.
Okay,
Don't worry, we all feel like that.
you know that scene in Reckless where you're with, Mark How was that filming that? Because it's just, I mean, that whole episode was like, basically with the like cheese man and everything, but I just remember that scene, and that's like the only time you're not in like the full Adam trying to find cyborg stuff, human stuff, and so I was just wondering how it was filming that scene specifically.
That was awesome. So from 4.5 hours of makeup to about 7 minutes, it's like, whoa! And pre-dawn calls, like dark outside, to be set ready for 9 a.m. So that was awesome, obviously. That was important.
Oh, and I know that the Buffy fan that we just did pre-dawn also.
Can I give you a hug? You guys can hear what she's saying, right? You have a hearing problem or just...
Why don't I ask you to help?
This is kind of like, what's your favorite line by your character in all the series, basically? And I guess for you that would also count being too, or tell me what your favorite Buffy and April ones.
Alright, the question is, what's your favorite line from your character?
My favorite one was it was in Seeing Red, and when I came into Spike's crib and we were talking about Buffy, and I was like, hey, Spike, she is a sweet girl, but is she?
So many great lines. I mean, I think the one that stuck with me most of all that I had was when I was Redfield. And I was talking about that. I'll just not take that. Vader. It's like, oh, and then I say something about the dark rights. Vader.
I think my favorite line was when in the last episode I kicked off Buffy's head, and then I said, did anyone else know the Slayer was a robot?
I will finish it.
Yeah, thank you. I totally forgot. I give it up. Thank you, girls. Thank you, Buffy. I'm doing that poorly. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you very much. And 17 was only a 51. Goes away. I didn't even see my spleen.
You got a really got a disproportionate amount of good lines. Yeah.
Hi everyone, how are you doing today? Good, thank you. I've had a lot of fangirl moments here today, as I'm sure a lot of people in this room had. Right? So it leads me to my question. I wanted to know, what is your most memorable fan moment, good or bad?
I'll kick this one off because I'm sure that everybody up here has a lot of memorable moments. Recently at Emerald City Comic Con, there was a marriage proposal during one of my Q&As, which was very memorable and special to me, and I was honored that they chose that moment to dedicate their love for their significant other. So that was pretty unique and awesome.
I would say, I mean, there's been ton. I would say any time that anyone has ever come up and said how much the show meant to them and that it helped them get through a really tough period in their life, that means the world to me as an actor, just to know that something you were a part of helped someone. So that's for me.
Every single one of my fan moments is memorable.
Yeah, we're actually in competition with each other to try to come up with the best. Just beat us there, dude.
Follow that.
I got to meet the person who works at NASA, at the Jet Propulsion Laboratories in Pasadena, who helped design the Mars rover, Curiosity, and who could point out the International Space Station at any moment in the sky. It was night, of course. You could be like, yeah, it's right there. Yeah. So, yeah, fans are cool. They have cool jobs.
Yeah, I would say there's so many fantastic, memorable moments. James said it right. You just get to meet incredible people with incredible lives, incredible stories. However, the most memorable for me would be, I believe it was London, England, where a gentleman and his daughter came up and the girl said, "Show him, Daddy, show him." And he lifted his shirt and showed me his back where I was tattooed somewhere on his right lower quadrant, north of Buttsville and
North of Uranus,
or his anus. That too, so there you go.
you will live on, brother.
Whenever he's like, what the fuck, like today.
Like, how do you get rid of the George Hertzberg tattoo? I mean, what do you do to get rid of a George Hertzberg tattoo?
It takes a lot, trust me.
I can turn this into Poland. I can turn this in. I mean, it's a very tall tattoo.
Hi, what's your name?
Oh, I'm Megan.
Megan?
I guess for James Marsters and Nicholas Brendan, what was the hardest episode of Buffy in terms of preparation and execution for you to film?
That's a serious question.
I think the musical, because there was the ad, we had to, like, we were done shooting whatever episode was before the musical, and then we had to go to rehearse, and we really did have to take that CD of Jocelyn and Kai singing and pretend like it was our favorite CD of all time because we needed to know it backwards and forwards. There was an episode I remember. My character was very trippy. He liked to fall a lot, and there was an episode I forgot where I was going down into a crypt. It may have been the Zethel, it may have been the Replacements. It was the Replacements, and I just kept tripping on this crypt, falling down the stairs. And instead of false tripping, I actually wanted to kind of take my foot and hit it on the concrete little beamer, so that I really kind of get the momentum. Trip. Now, that toe is fun. And I feel it hurts right now. I'm thinking of pedicure like every 2 weeks, but I run a lot and just kind of.
Sure, that's the reason.
Did everybody catch that he gets a pedicure every 2 weeks?
Yes, you get pedicures all the time. But not in the Four Seasons, it's kind of expensive.
I hope you tip well, because that toe is nasty. I remember one time, I messed myself up on a gag once, stupidly, when I was supposed to catch fire. And I let the gag go twice as long as they told me to, because I thought it would be more funny that way. And I burned myself really badly. Luckily, it was the only episode I was in. It was season 4, and that was the last shot, so no one found out about it. But my entire hand was covered in blisters. Yeah, it was so gross. But I never admitted that while the show was filming, because I knew that if they knew that I blew that one that badly, they wouldn't let me do anything else.
There was one at Teacher's Pet too, where I decided to do my own. So they still allowed us to do our stunts. I don't think, like at that time, nobody really knew what they were doing. So there was an episode where the soon-to-be praying mantis, beautiful teacher, dragged me downstairs and threw me into basement, and I rolled down the stairs. And I'm like, fuck that, I'll do that. I did that as a kid, you know. So they put me in a backpack, and at the time, my character, I thought Santa should have a ring on every finger, which I was trying to figure out why still.
It was the late 90s.
And so I go down, and I do like a head over heels thing, and I'm like, holy shit. I'm not in control right now. And all of my fingers, all of my rings flew off of my finger and embedded themselves into the concrete wall, which is made out of wood. And I'm like, I never want to do that again. What was I thinking? So that was terrible.
I had to eat chips with fake teeth. That was really hard.
All right, what's your name?
My name's Rachel.
Rachel, what's your question?
So one of the most iconic things about Buffy is the language and the cadence in which everybody speaks. Now, for those of you who have seen the movie, if you don't know what you're doing, it doesn't necessarily deliver as well. So how did you guys master that cadence and make it sound like second nature? Very good.
I think the key to Joss's style is to just sell it as if it's normal. To ground it in reality and not send it up. And you know, I don't think that the difference between the movie and the TV series is so much that the actors are better. Because I mean, they had Rutger Hauer, man. I mean, they had some really good actors. It was direction. And Joss was not in control of the direction. And they tried for a style of sending it up. Almost like it was farce. And it just doesn't work. And I would have loved to have been in Joss's house coming home from that set. Because he would just be like, yeah! But yeah, it was just, in a way, it was very easy. Because you just get your lines right and say it normally. And it's hilarious. You don't hate me. Just be normal, man. Yeah.
I think that there was a cadence to his language and the way he writes. So it's almost like, it's almost like a song or memorizing poetry or even, kind of like Shakespeare. I think a lot of people have, drawn a parallel between, a loose parallel between those two writing styles. But yeah, it was in a way very easy, like James was saying, to memorize because it had a certain cadence to it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Definitely felt very theatrical. And I remember watching a couple of scenes actually you and I had expected. It was just beat. It was right in the air. It was cut. cut for TV because it's too much of a pause. But really about the speech.
Also, like on a lot of films or television, they'll tell you, look, if you can come up with a different way of saying this that feels more natural to you, go for that. No, Buffy. James, you missed a comma. Take two. We didn't come up with one word. It was all, like, if a conjunction was not correct, we'd go back and pick that up, so.
Yeah, we've gotten the question before of, did you ever improvise any of your lines? It's no, didn't dare.
Hi, what's your name?
Good afternoon. My name is Christine.
Hi, Christine.
Hello. This question is for the character of Spike. Astronauts or cavemen?
It's not going to be astronauts. Astronauts are very small. They've got to fit inside the capsule. So, of course it's cavemen. Cavemen are very large, of course.
Four of the five, there we go, of you guys before. Thank you, Nick, for doing the Snoopy dance for me. Thank you for doing the Snoopy dance for me 5 years ago. I appreciate that. It's one of my best memories. This is a question that I know that some ladies and probably gents in the audience would like to know, James. What does John Barrowman's mouth taste like?
John Barrowman's mouth? Violets and sunshine.
I heard rumors it tasted like peaches.
I mean, it depends on the time of day. Nice try.
need to grow.
I know.
That's what I do.
I know. I'm working on it in therapy.
And I immediately went to Spike for obvious male reasons.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard because I can't imagine everybody that was in that show being a part of it as I was. I say Spike because outside of Xander, he was my favorite character on the show, especially with our stuff together. I just thought he was really wonderful. And I love the way James played it. I just had a kind of a little male crush on him. My little underestimated a lot of James. But then again, it's like I was saying yesterday that I really like Emma's breasts, so I would be Emma so that I could just look at my breasts a lot in the mirror. So, but in terms of acting, it would have been Spike. In terms of looking at breasts, it probably would have been Emma or Claire.
How many children do we have in the audience today?
They're not children anymore. I actually got to, part of the way I got on the show was I did a casting workshop with Lonnie Hammerman, and she brought in scenes from the show, and I got to be Spike in the scene, and it was awesome, but her note was, you need to be more dangerous. Dangerous. I wasn't quite dangerous. Okay, yeah, let me, okay, dangerous.
Let me take everything out of my pockets first.
Right, I'll get to danger. Gotta take my watch off.
I would definitely be Clem. Clem got more female attention than anyone on the set. Girls would just sit in his lap and play with his ears all day long.
We remember my days on set very differently. I do remember. Yeah. No, they loved the ears. I was in Devon, and luckily the makeup covered my fanboy squeeing that was happening as Allison would come over and play with the ears, then Emma would come over and play with the ears, then Sarah would come over and play with the ears, and then I would play with my own ears. I would earsturbate.
Good afternoon to all of you. I've enjoyed all of your work. This is a two-part. I can't try to embarrass you because I embarrassed my daughter yesterday when I told Nicholas that he was on my list. And she was like,
he's on all of our lists.
I know, right? But this is a two-part. First, I want to know what's the biggest prank that you played on each other? And then, James, I would love it. I know it's from Angel, but if you would say, wee little puppet man.
You're a wee little puppet man. As far as pranks go, the second episode I did, I got to shoot for a full week, and it was right around Christmas time. And again, Allison loved messing with the ears, so on my last day of shooting before the little break, the makeup guy, when they took me out of makeup, and there was a little Christmas party, and they took me out, and they took the ear, and they messed with the edge so it looked like it had been ripped off, and they covered it in fake blood and put it in a Christmas present. And they made a huge deal out of presenting it to her, I think thinking that she would be like, oh my God, gross! And no, she was like, this is awesome! And was playing with it, blood. We had a line producer named Gareth Davies that did not want any fun at all. He wanted to make our day, which we usually didn't. We would shoot for 16 hours. The only thing I ever did on a set was the pilot of Kitchen Confidential. John Sheldon and I had some time off, so we wrapped Cooper's car around Cooper's car in toilet paper. And I mean, that's just it. I mean, we did not have time, and we didn't want to be yelled at. You know, sometimes Joss would be kind of like in a playful mood. Sometimes he would not be in a playful mood. He's kind of want to keep the set copacetic. I was pantsed once by Sarah, and I wasn't wearing underwear. So that's season one.
We were known around Los Angeles as Buffy the Weekend Slayer. Because most shows would go 12 hours and they cut it in 12 hours because after 12 hours you have to pay the crew double. It's called golden time. But Buffy, because we had stunts, computer effects, makeup effects, we had every element going on at all times. We would bust past 12 hours every day. 12 hours was unheard of. We never went just 12. It was 14, 16, sometimes 20 hours a day. So there was not a lot of time for pranks, unfortunately. People just wanted to try to get the pages. And also, I was even more boring than anyone else. Like, at least you would joke. You know, like if they after cut, then you'd say something funny. Whereas me, like I finally went to Joss one time and I said, I'm never in the highlight reel that you show at the cast party, where everyone's being so funny. And I'm like, well, don't you like me? And he's like, no, I like you fine, it's just you're boring. After the word cut, like after the word action, it's like someone just released an animal from a cage, but after I yell cut, you do the same thing every time. You check to see if you're on your mark, and you go back to your set, and go back to your chair, and you take out your script, and you study your lines, and that's all you ever do. So, that's all I ever do.
It's overrated.
Boring.
I'm too bad, and I'd love to hear your best Joss Whedon moment.
When he recognized me at the Pasadena airport once. I was waiting in the baggage claim area for my in-laws to come in, and he came off the flight, and he waved to me, and I got very excited.
My favorite moment, when I got on the show, Joss had not planned for Spike to be like a romantic vampire. He always used to say, I don't like that Anne Rice stuff, you know, because for him, vampires are supposed to be a metaphor for all of the things that you overcome in adolescence. So that's why we were ugly when we were biting people. He didn't want it to be romantic. And he got talked into one romantic vampire character, and that was Angel. He didn't think of it, but his David Greenwald, his writing partner at the time, thought of that. And he said, okay, I'll give you one. And then Angel took off like a shot, and they were going to give him his own show. But it was absolutely opposite of what his original idea for the show was. And then I came along, and it worked out so that, you know, I was being perceived as a romantic character on his show, which was really dangerous to his theme. And I remember early on, he backed me up against a wall, and he said, I don't care how popular you are. You are dead, you are dead, you are dead! And I was just like, it's your football, whatever. So.
That worked out well for him.
Hi, I'm Monique. I have two questions. One's for Nicholas Brendan and one's for James Marsters. Okay, Nicholas. Did you know that something you said about shawarma on your first day of production actually made it into Avengers?
I did. I found out it was actually the teacher's pet. So I just had some fluff on the way to work, so I went into Joss's office and was ranting about shawarma. I just didn't understand it. It was in the glued meat. I just didn't get it. So then Joss put it in teacher's pet, and it was brought to my attention that the County Junior said that he and Joss had a meeting at the end of his needs a punch-up at the end, and Robert said that he and Joss came up with it together, and I'm like, fucking Downey, you're a liar. And we both live in Venice, too, you know, and I'm like, what do you think? And then Joss did say that, I come up with that line, so I just, now every time, I know a lot about Downey that people shouldn't know, but no, I was just like, I'm stoked. I mean, I didn't see the Avengers. I haven't done it on the bed. I'm not a superhero guy. I'm really not. I wish that I were. I'm just not. I'm a kid who loves baseball. As you know, I was a baseball player, and I see like independent movies, pretty much. You know, and I love Joss, and I thought it was okay. I did. I was like, I'll see it this week. You know, and I just.
Well, the shawarma line was genius. So I think, yeah, take credit for it, own it, and we all love you.
Okay. And James, this is actually a question I got from some friends of mine on a fan fiction website. I should tell you right now, I'm Team Spike. I'm a Buffy shipper all the way. So my question is, did you have to learn how to express yourself and convey the character of Spike, or did it just come naturally to you?
very, very naturally. I don't know what to say. I was in a relationship that was very successful romantically, so to speak. And so I just felt like a dude, you know, at that time in my life. And I had just gotten off of doing a Macbeth in Seattle and had gotten very comfortable. The thing is like, when you play a character who hurts people, it can be difficult. Like the center of Spike in the beginning was that he hurts people and kills them, but he feels great doing it. And if you're going to do that honestly, you really have to find that place in yourself where you can believe that to be true. And that, when I did Macbeth, really tripped me up. Because I'm used to feeling guilty about hurting people. But then when I did Macbeth, I started reading about warriors and psychologically what they go through. And apparently, one of the big things that trips up people who come back from war is the fact that it's actually fun to kill someone. And they have to live with the guilt of their own emotional reaction to that. But that it's a very natural animal reaction to that experience. And so during the play, I worked on that really hard until I could kind of vicariously get to that place and feel that rush when I'm killing someone. It sounds so strange, but luckily I'd already kind of gotten that before I auditioned for Spike, so I was able to just really run with that. That's such a weird answer. And I'm uncomfortable. You made me uncomfortable.
Hi, I'm Karen. I wanted to ask all of you, do you read any fan fiction? And if so, who's your favorite pairing?
I once made the mistake of reading some Spike Clem / fan fiction. It has been indelibly burned into my brain ever since. I cannot get it out.
I haven't had a chance to read Bluey fan fiction, but send it my way, and I will. Would like to.
No way in heck. No way. I think that it's fabulous that it's written. I mean, what artists are trying to do is get a reaction from the audience and to interact with the audience. And when the audience actually starts creating their own art in response to what you've done, that's kind of like the best thing that can possibly happen. But no.
Neil.
I've heard about some Xavier Kyle stuff. You know, when it happens in real life, you just don't want to read about it, you know what I mean?
It just pales in comparison to the real thing.
Hello. I'm Ashley, and two things. First, what was the hardest episode or scene for you in Buffy emotionally? Like, which one did you have to, like, really psych yourself up for and go for it?
Probably like the attempted reboot of Buffy and the Pack. That thing was kind of weird. Because like typically it's like I don't take on the emotion of me. Like to me, acting is I'm pretending to be somebody else, and there are a lot of different ways of acting, a lot of ways to kind of bring out your own inner turmoil. But I could pretty much leave it at when I was done with it, and that was that particular part of it, right? But when it got, then I started reading some private practice too. When it gets into something like that, where it's physical with a woman, I have a hard time with it.
Yeah, the thing about working for Joss Whedon, like if you're doing a movie, you can read the script beforehand and you can decide if you want to do that project or not. And oftentimes I'll read a script and I'll say, I don't want to go through that, and no, I don't want to audition. When you do a television series, once you film the pilot, you pretty much know what you're going to be asked to do week to week, because basically most shows are the same story. It's boring, that's why they're boring. But with Joss, you never know what you're going to be asked to do. You're contractually obligated to do whatever you're told, but you have no idea that, like Nick, when it came to that bathroom scene, no one asked me if I wanted to do this. If I see that on television, I turn it off before I break through television. If I know that that's in a movie, I don't go to see that movie. I don't like that. So I remember I told the writer as I was coming onto the set that sometimes you don't understand what you're putting us through. You don't really get that we have to actually go through this emotion. And you know that the other thing is that in that scene, you know, the writers were doing something very brave every week. They were taking their most painful day, the day that they were humiliated or hurt, or that they hurt someone for no good reason, and the day that they regret in their life, and then slap fangs on top of that and tell the whole world about their pain. So it was a sustained act of bravery from the writing staff, and there was a very good reason for that scene. But I had to do it, and it sent me into therapy, which was a good thing. As it turns out, I got a lot happier after, you know, going through therapy. So it all turned out fine. But on that day, that was the hardest day of my professional life to this day. So
The scene after in the crypt, they added like 3 weeks later, because I think they had done a cut of the show and went, whoa. And the scene between you and I in the crypt, they added later to try to give a little comedic and also to sort of soften Spike's, or give something, because it just, I think it came across a little harsher than they had even anticipated.
Yeah, I know, they told me that, like, Jim, we didn't think it was going to be that harsh. And I was like, what? Read the scene!
Okay, so this is for James Marsters. Good afternoon. I'm Mimi, and I was wondering what it was like from going from a character that was very against Buffy and just generally wanted to kill her, to somebody who became very interested and eventually started fighting for the good guys.
Yeah, I prefer playing villains. Villains are really fun because, like, I got to play a few heroes, and as it turns out, heroes are horrible. Like, when you're a hero, you're always running from A to B, and you're always trying to save everybody, and you're always feeling guilty that you can't save every single person, and you're in emotional turmoil and everything. And then when you're a villain, you just lurk. And you wait for the hero to run by, sweating and worrying if he's saving everybody, and you pop him in the head, and you go home, man. And it's a lot. It's just easier to play the villain. And also, I grew up a punk rocker. So there's a piece of me that if someone is powerful, I really want to tear that down because I think everyone's equal, you know. So Sarah was great, but she was powerful because she was Buffy. So everyone has to be nice to Sarah. Hello, Sarah, how are you today? You know? But when they called action, when I was a villain, I could mess with Sarah. I could, you know. And then when I fell in love with her, that was gone, and I was like, oh man, I have to let her know. I gotta be nice to her all the time now. But then it was great. They could let me go on Angel, and I could just mess with him.
Well, as a villain, you get to say great lines like "Mewling Quinn." Heroes don't get to say those lines.
Alright, I think we're nearing the end. We want to get the Snoopy dance in, but do you guys want to be in the back of a group selfie that we're going to take up here? Yeah?